Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a look at something a lot of you have been asking about, the psychology behind buying and selling real estate.
Oh, this is going to be fascinating.
Yeah, we've got some really cool sources lined up that kind of pull back the curtain on how real estate agents use, subtle persuasion to close deals.
hmm
It's not really about manipulation though, right?
Right.
It's more about understanding how our minds work when we make those big decisions, those big financial decisions.
Exactly.
So picture this. We're like flies on the wall at a real estate agent training seminar.
Okay. Yeah.
And we're going to find out all those little secrets they use to kind of nudge buyers in a certain direction.
I love it. Let's jump in.
Okay, so right off the bat, our sources are saying that a lot of people think buying a house is like purely rational.
Yeah.
It's all about the numbers, the spreadsheets. But it turns out emotions play a way bigger role than we might think.
Oh, absolutely. Our sources are emphasizing that emotions are often the driving force behind real estate purchases. It's not just about ticking those boxes on a checklist. It's that gut feeling, that this feels like home moment.
So it's more about how the house makes you feel than like how many bedrooms it has or what the interest rates are.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally. Think about it. You walk into a house and maybe the fireplace reminds you of like cozy family gatherings,
Yeah.
or the spacious backyard sparks dreams of summer barbecues.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Right. Those emotional connections can often outweigh those practical considerations.
Yeah, that totally resonates with me. Actually, when I bought my first place, I completely fell for this charming old Victorian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it needed a ton of work, which logically was not the best choice for a first-time buyer.
Uh-huh.
But those stained glass windows, oh my gosh, they were pure magic. It just felt like me.
I totally get that. And that's what those skilled agents understand.
Yeah.
The power of emotions, they use it in all sorts of ways, strategically. Like they might play on what's called the fear of missing out, FOMO.
Oh, FOMO. Yeah, that's like that feeling you get when you think if you don't act fast, you'll miss out on something amazing.
Right.
Like that last pair of shoes on sale.
Exactly. Now imagine this. You're interested in a house and the agent just casually mentions another offer, even if there isn't one.
Oh, sneaky.
Right. That pressure, that fear of losing out, it can make people act way more impulsively.
So they jump into it, even if it means overlooking like potential problems or maybe even overpaying.
Yeah. It's like a psychological push to act fast, even if it means missing some things, some crucial details.
Okay, so FOMO can be a powerful motivator,
Yeah.
but buyers need to be aware of it so they don't like make those rash decisions.
Absolutely. Finding the right balance between letting those emotions guide you and keeping a level head.
Yeah, keeping your cool.
Right. And, speaking of influencing decisions, another powerful tactic is social proof.
Social proof.
This idea that we're wired to do what others are doing.
Oh, yeah. Like, if everyone else is jumping on a trend, I'm more likely to do it too.
Exactly. So how does this play out in real estate?
I'm not sure. Give me an example.
Okay, let's say you're not so sure about a neighborhood. The agent might just mention a family, a young family who just moved in and loves it there.
Mm-hmm.
Or they might casually point out that there are multiple offers on those nearby houses.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And suddenly it feels like, well, if everyone else sees the value, maybe I should too.
Yeah, it's like a built-in stamp of approval.
Right. And this can be really subtle too, sharing those great testimonials from past clients, emphasizing, those trendy features like a chef's kitchen or even showcasing market trends. It just reinforces that idea that this is something you want.
It's like those online reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Hundreds of 5-star ratings, and you're thinking, okay, this restaurant must be good.
Exactly. Now, this next tactic is a little more strategic, even maybe a bit sneaky.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Our sources call it anchoring.
Anchoring.
Yeah. Basically, it relies on our tendency to latch onto that first piece of information we get.
Oh, okay.
Because that's an anchor in our minds, right? And then we judge everything else based on that.
So it's kind of like setting a reference point, even if it's not the right one.
Exactly. So imagine you're looking for, let's say, a 3-bedroom house in a certain price range.
Mm.
The agent might first show you a property that's a little above your budget, maybe with features you don't even need.
Like a pool or something?
Right, like a pool. And then they show you a house that is in your budget, but suddenly it feels like a steal.
Because you're comparing it to that first house, the one with the pool?
Precisely. It's all about framing that perception of value.
So sneaky, but so smart.
It is, isn't it? And, you see this everywhere, like a department store sale. That dress that was originally $200, but now it's marked down to
I know.
$100. It feels like an amazing deal, even though you probably wouldn't have paid $200 for it in the first place.
That's so true.
Right. It's a tactic that buyers and even sellers should definitely be aware of. It's all psychology.
Knowing these little tricks of the trade can make you a much smarter player in the real estate game, that's for sure.
Absolutely. It can really empower you to make decisions that really work for you, decisions that align with your goals.
All right, so we've talked about those more like immediate tactics, but what about the long game?
Hmm.
How do agents use those long-term benefits of a property to persuade buyers?
Well, that taps into something different. FOMO and anchoring, they play on that urgency, that need to make a decision now.
Right, right.
But framing the benefits, it appeals to the buyer's vision for the future.
So it's less about the immediate deal
Yeah.
and more about painting a picture of like what your life could be like in this house, like 5, 10 years down the road.
Exactly. They might highlight the property's potential for appreciation, presenting it as a solid investment, or maybe emphasize those lifestyle benefits.
Like what?
Oh, excellent schools, close to parks, a vibrant community, things like that. It creates a really strong connection that goes way beyond just the house itself.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, I want to hear from you, listener. If you were buying a house, what kind of long-term benefits would really speak to you?
Mm-hmm.
Would it be the financial security of a good investment? The promise of a close-knit community? Really think about what would be most important to you when you picture your future in a new home.
Yeah, that's a great point. Understanding your own priorities, those things that are important to you, is really, really key to navigating the real estate market.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Okay, so our sources also dig into this concept of reciprocity.
yeah.
And this one seems to be all about building relationships, not just, closing deals.
It is. Reciprocity is basically this human principle. It's that when someone does something nice for us, we feel like we need to return the favor.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Right. And real estate agents use this to build trust and influence those buyer decisions.
So are we talking about creating a sense of obligation here?
It can feel like that, almost like a friendly debt,
Right, right.
but hopefully without that manipulation or pressure.
Okay, so how does this play out in the real world? Give me some examples of how an agent might use reciprocity in a way that feels, authentic and helpful.
Sure. It could be as simple as offering a free market analysis, even if the client hasn't decided to work with them yet,
Mm.
or maybe providing a list of, good local contractors. It's about going above and beyond to ensure that you have the client's best interests in mind.
It's almost like saying, hey, I'm here to help you, no strings attached, right?
Exactly. And when done right, it creates a real sense of trust.
Yeah, and buying or selling a house can be so stressful.
It can be.
Having an agent who genuinely cares can make all the difference.
It really can. It's about building that connection, that human connection that can get lost sometimes in this fast-paced world.
Definitely. Now, even with all these persuasive tactics we've been talking about, buyers are going to have hesitations. It's a huge decision.
It is a huge decision.
So how do agents handle those moments of resistance?
That's where true skill comes in. You have to address those concerns head on, not just brush them aside.
So it's less about pushing and more about, like, guiding the client through those feelings.
Exactly. The first step is to really figure out what's causing that hesitation. Is it the price, the location?
Mm-hmm.
Once the agent understands that, the root of the problem, they can address it with information and reassurance.
Okay, so, like, if someone is hesitating because of the price, the agent might show them data on comparable properties.
Right, right, to show that the asking price is fair. Or if the location is a concern, maybe highlight some upcoming developments that could make it more appealing.
So it's about turning those negatives into positives.
It is. It's about reframing the situation.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm.
But what happens when a buyer's just not convinced, no matter what the agent says?
Well, sometimes, you just have to acknowledge that maybe this particular property isn't the right fit.
Then move on.
And move on. It happens.
Okay, so the art of persuasion in real estate. It's
Mhm.
this, like, delicate dance between psychology, relationships, and presenting information in a way that's compelling but also ethical.
It really is. And as we said earlier, this is valuable knowledge for everyone involved, buyers and sellers.
Absolutely. We've covered so much ground today. We've explored those emotional ups and downs of buying a house, the power of FOMO, social proof, and even those sneaky tactics like anchoring and reciprocity.
Mm.
We even dug into how agents handle those moments of buyer resistance, turning what could be deal breakers into, chances to connect with the client.
It's been a fascinating look at the psychology of real estate, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. We've uncovered some real gems in these sources, things that I think most people probably don't even realize are influencing their decisions.
It's true, and that's precisely why this is so important to talk about. By understanding how our minds work, we can approach this whole process with more awareness.
And make choices that are right for us, not just for, the agent or the seller.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's recap some of the key takeaways for our listeners today. First off, buying a house, it's an emotional decision.
Yes. Driven by feelings more than logic.
That feeling you get when you walk into a house, that's powerful.
It is. Don't underestimate it. And, those good real estate agents, they know how to use those emotions to create that desire, that urgency.
We also talked about FOMO, that fear of missing out,
Yeah.
which can really push us to make quick decisions.
Right. But be aware of it. Take a step back, and ask yourself if you're really comfortable with the property, with the price.
Don't let FOMO make you do something you'll regret later.
Exactly. And then there's social proof, that idea that we're all influenced by what others are doing. Testimonials, market trends, they're all designed to make you feel like you're part of something.
Like you're making the right decision.
Right. But just because something is popular doesn't necessarily mean it's the best choice for you.
We also got into the nitty-gritty of anchoring, how agents use a higher-priced property as that reference point to make other properties seem like a better deal.
It's a clever tactic, but it's important to be aware of it. Do your research, understand the actual market value.
And then there's reciprocity, that idea of building relationships and creating a sense of obligation by doing favors or giving gifts.
It's about building trust, creating that win-win situation.
And remember how we talked about agents handling those moments of buyer resistance?
Yeah.
It's about addressing those concerns head on, providing information and reassurance.
Not dismissing those concerns, but really working through them.
Exactly. So all of this, you might be thinking, okay, this is interesting, but how does it actually help me?
Right.
Well, that's the whole point of this deep dive.
It is.
We're not just here to, analyze tactics. We want to empower you.
We want you to make informed decisions, to be in control.
So for our listeners out there thinking about buying or selling a house soon, what's the big takeaway here?
Be aware. Be aware of these psychological factors that are at play, Your emotions are going to be involved. That's natural, but don't let them completely take over.
Do your research, ask questions, and if something doesn't feel right, don't be afraid to push back a little.
You are in control.
And if you're working with an agent, view them as a guide, a resource, but ultimately you're the one calling the shots.
Absolutely.
Don't be swayed by pressure tactics or emotional appeals that don't align with what you need, with what's important to you.
And remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand this, the psychology behind it all, the more confident you'll feel.
So much great stuff to think about. What stands out to you from all of this? Is there a tactic that you find particularly interesting, maybe even surprising?
It's the way emotions and logic are so intertwined. We often think of them as separate, but in real estate, they're constantly playing off of each other.
Yeah, it's like a dance. You need both partners to move gracefully.
Exactly. And the more aware you are of the steps, the better you'll be able to lead or follow, depending on your role.
I think it's interesting how these tactics aren't inherently good or bad. They can be used to guide buyers towards a good decision, but they could also be used to manipulate.
Right. It all comes down to the intent. Is the agent being transparent? Are they being honest?
Are they more focused on building a relationship or just closing the deal as fast as possible?
Those are all great questions to ask yourself. And if something feels off, trust your gut.
Don't hesitate to walk away.
You deserve to work with someone you trust, someone who has your best interests in mind.
So finding the right agent is key. And we've got some more great tips on how to do just that coming up after the break.
Stay tuned.
We'll be right back.
Okay, so finding the right real estate agent, that can feel pretty overwhelming.
It can be, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with so many options out there.
It's like trying to pick out the perfect avocado at the grocery store. You want one that's ripe but not too soft, right?
Right. Too many choices can definitely be a problem.
It is. So how do you avoid getting stuck with the mushy avocado? Or worse, an agent who just isn't a good fit for you?
Yeah, how do we avoid that?
Well, I think it all starts with really understanding what you want in an agent. Do you prefer someone who's a really tough negotiator?
Okay. Okay.
Someone who's going to fight for every last penny? Or do you value someone who's more patient? You know, someone who can guide you through every step of the way.
So it's kind of like choosing a travel buddy.
Yeah.
Different trips, different personalities.
That's a great analogy. You wouldn't want a laid-back beach bum if you're going on like an adventure trek through the Amazon,
Right?
right?
Certainly not.
And it's the same with real estate. Do you need a specialist who knows like historic homes or someone who's really good with condo purchases? Figuring out your needs first, that's key.
Okay, so once you have a picture in your mind of your ideal agent, where do you even begin the search?
Well, you'd be surprised, but networking can be a really great starting point.
Yeah.
Talk to friends, family, colleagues, anyone who's recently bought or sold a property. Those personal recommendations can be super valuable.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about like online resources?
Definitely. Don't underestimate those. Look at those agent profiles, read those reviews, explore their websites, their social media, all of that.
So it's like online dating for real estate.
Huh? Yeah, I guess you could say that. But hopefully with fewer awkward first encounters.
Let's hope so.
And remember, you are in control here. Don't be afraid to interview, a few different agents. Get a feel for their personality, their experience. Do they seem like they're actually listening to you? Are they interested in helping you achieve your goals? Or are they just trying to make a quick sale?
There's that theme again. It's all about that connection, that trust. But this is a big financial decision, so we can't forget about the practical side of things either.
Right, of course.
What kind of questions should we be asking to really gauge their expertise?
Ask the tough questions. Ask about their track record, their success rate. How well do they know the neighborhoods you're interested in? How do they handle multiple offers or problems that come up? Get into the nitty-gritty.
So we're looking for that balance, right?
Yeah.
Competence, connection, they got to have both.
Exactly. And don't forget about communication. Find out how they prefer to keep you updated throughout the whole process. Do they like phone calls, emails, texts? How responsive are they? A good agent will be a clear communicator, keeping you in the loop every step of the way.
Yeah, communication is key for sure. What about those gut feelings, though? Like, if something feels off about an agent, should we trust those instincts?
Absolutely. Trust your intuition. If their personality just doesn't click with you, if their approach just doesn't sit right, it's totally fine to move on.
Yeah.
Buying or selling a house, it's such a big decision. You deserve to work with someone you feel good about, someone you can trust.
It's like that feeling when you walk into a house and you just know it's not the one.
Right. Sometimes you can't explain it, but you just know.
Exactly. So finding the right agent, it's kind of the same thing. It's about finding that person who you believe truly has your back, who will be there for you throughout the whole process.
You got it.
Okay, so we've talked about all this psychology from the agent's perspective, but what about the buyer? How can we use all this knowledge to be, smarter and more confident when we're out there looking for a house?
That's such a great question. And it brings us back to why we're doing this whole deep dive thing in the first place, right?
Right.
Knowledge is power.
It is.
The more you understand about the tactics being used, the better you can navigate them. You'll be able to make those informed decisions.
So it's like having a secret decoder ring. We can now see through those subtle messages, those strategies.
Exactly. For example, if you're aware of FOMO, you'll be less likely to rush into something just because you feel that pressure.
And knowing about social proof can help you figure out if you actually like a certain feature or if you're just, caught up in the hype.
Right. And understanding anchoring allows you to judge the real value of a property, not just the value that's being presented to you.
So it's about taking that step back, being an active participant in the process, and making sure your needs are being met.
Exactly. It's not about becoming cynical or distrustful of every agent out there.
Right.
It's about being a savvy consumer, understanding the rules of the game, and making sure you're playing it to your advantage.
Okay, I love that. So we've been focusing a lot on the tactical stuff,
Mhm.
but buying a house, it's a really emotional experience too.
It is.
It's about finding that place where you can build a life, create memories. How do we balance that emotional side with, the practical realities of the market?
That's such an important point. It's something I always tell my clients, yes, buying a house is a big investment financially, but it's also an investment in your happiness.
In your future.
Exactly. Don't ignore those emotions. Acknowledge them. Let them guide you towards a decision that feels good both in your head and your heart.
So it's about finding that sweet spot where logic and emotion come together,
Yeah.
where practicality meets possibility.
Beautifully put. And when you find that balance, when you make a decision that feels right on both levels, That's when the magic really happens.
I love that. Speaking of magic, there's one more tactic we haven't touched on yet, and it's often overlooked: the power of storytelling.
Ah, storytelling. It's this ancient art of captivating, inspiring, and yes, persuading. And it's a tool that really great agents use so well.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more. How does storytelling come into play in real estate?
Well, think about it. A house, it's more than just bricks and mortar, right?
Okay.
It's a container for stories, for memories, for lives lived. And a good agent can tap into that. They can paint a picture of what life could be like in that house.
Almost like they're creating a movie trailer in your mind.
Exactly. It's about going beyond those basic facts and figures and really making you feel something, making you imagine yourself living, laughing, loving in that space.
So it's not just about the features, it's about connecting with the buyer's aspirations, their dreams.
Absolutely. And that's why storytelling can be so effective. It's not about selling a house, it's about selling a dream, a possibility, a story that the buyer can see themselves stepping into.
And that brings us to another important point: visualization.
Yes. Visualization, another powerful tool. And it works hand in hand with storytelling.
So it's not just about hearing the story, it's about actually picturing yourself living it.
Exactly. A good agent will encourage you to do that. They might say, imagine hosting Thanksgiving dinner in this dining room. Can you picture your kids playing in the backyard?
They're creating those mental images,
Yeah.
making the house feel more real, more like it could be yours.
Precisely. It creates a sense of ownership, a connection that goes beyond just looking at pictures or walking through the house.
So it's not just about the physical space, it's about the emotional space too.
Exactly. And that's why storytelling and visualization are so powerful together. They help bridge that gap between the practical and the emotional.
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about the buyer's experience, but what about the sellers? How do all these insights apply to them?
That's a great question, and it's one that often gets overlooked. Because while a lot of these tactics are used by agents to influence buyers, sellers can use them too, to present their property in the best possible light.
So it's not just about staging the house and setting the right price. It's about understanding the buyer's psychology and appealing to that.
Exactly. For instance, understanding FOMO can help sellers create that sense of urgency, maybe by mentioning other interested buyers or highlighting those unique features that everyone wants.
So it's kind of like using those limited edition tactics you see in marketing.
Exactly. Suddenly, everyone wants what they can't have. And then there's social proof. Remember how we talked about agents using testimonials and market trends? Well, sellers can do that too.
So instead of just listing the features of their home, they can talk about the great community, the friendly neighbors, all of that.
You got it. It's about painting that picture of a desirable lifestyle.
And what about anchoring? Does that come into play for sellers as well?
Absolutely. Think about pricing. A seller might list their home slightly above their ideal price, knowing that buyers will probably negotiate. This sets an anchor in the buyer's mind.
So it's like seeing those original price tags in a store.
Exactly. The sale price seems even better when you compare it to that higher original price. And of course, we can't forget about storytelling and visualization. Those are just as important for sellers as they are for buyers.
So instead of just listing features, sellers can tell a story about their home, about the life that's been lived there.
Right. They can showcase the memories, the laughter, the joy.
It's not just a house, it's a piece of their heart.
Exactly. And using visuals to bring that story to life is so important. Professional photos, virtual tours, even carefully chosen staging can help buyers imagine themselves in that space.
It's about making an emotional connection, helping buyers feel like they're not just buying a house, but buying a piece of someone's happiness.
You nailed it. Whether you're buying or selling, understanding the psychology behind it all can be a real game changer. It's about using these insights to your advantage while staying true to your values.
So we've covered a lot of ground today, from the agent's perspective to the buyer's mindset to the seller's strategies. But now I'm thinking about how all of this applies beyond the world of real estate. Do these same psychological principles influence us in other parts of our lives?
That's a great question because these principles, they're not limited to real estate. They're at play in our everyday decisions.
Like how we choose a restaurant or the clothes we buy, even how we form opinions on things.
Exactly. Think about how social proof influences us, or how anchoring can make something seem more affordable. And reciprocity, that's everywhere, from holding the door for someone to giving gifts.
It's all around us, this web of influence and persuasion.
It is. It's shaping our thoughts, our actions, all the time.
So as you go about your day, pay attention to those subtle forces. Notice how they're being used, and think about how you might use them ethically to achieve your own goals.
Because understanding this isn't about manipulation, it's about empowerment. It's about making informed choices, choices that feel right for you.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening, and I hope our listeners are feeling more informed and empowered about the art of persuasion, not just in real estate, but in all aspects of life.
Absolutely. Remember, knowledge is power, and understanding ourselves is the key to a happier, more fulfilling life.
Thanks for joining us on this fascinating journey. We hope you've enjoyed it.
And until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay true to yourself.